Welcome to our heart-to-heart financial freedom conversation tonight. I'm so excited to have with us. We have Mark Tabron of Tabron and Associates, and we have attorney James McCullum. So we're going to have a great conversation tonight with regards to financial freedom. We'll first start by asking you, Mark, and let our audience know who you are and what you do.
Okay. Well, Mark Tabron from Tabron Associates Financial Services. And we've been in the financial service business for 29 years. My office is in Largo, Maryland, and people to protect and grow their money, help people to prepare for retirement. We help people that are already retired improve their retirement situation. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
It's going to be a great conversation. He's been here with us before. Attorney James McCullum is also with us. How are you, Attorney McCullum?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on the program, Ms. Jackson.
Good. Tell the audience about you, your firm, and just tell us about you.
I'm an attorney. I'm licensed to practice in District of Columbia in Maryland, office in College Park, Maryland. We have 4 attorneys and support staff. And about half our practice is helping people to obtain large sums of money. And the other part of our practice is helping people to save their money, invest their money, and protect their money.
Wonderful. So as you can see, this is a conversation that we need to have, and I'm excited to learn as much as I can. I'm in that area where I should be close to retirement, and so we have a few more years to go. But I think that we should always be in the mindset of what we can do to retire, right? So how we could be prepared to retire. So we're going to jump right in. What can people do to get ready who wants to retire in like 5 to 10 years?
Can you repeat the question? I didn't hear you. I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah. What can people do to get ready who wants to retire in like 5 to 10 years?
Okay. So we have a lot of people that are preparing to retire in the next 5 or 10 years. And I think one of the things that's very important is to make sure your portfolio is diversified. One of the things we learned in the last downturn when the housing bubble burst, 2008, a lot of people found themselves having to stay at work because they lost so much money when the market went down. So when there's downturns in the market, obviously you want to have your portfolio diversified so you don't lose so much money. So when you get closer to retirement, you want to have more money in a safer place. We believe the older you get, more money you put in a safe place. The older you get, more money in a safe place. So when we have major downturns like we did when the housing bubble burst, the dot-com bubble burst, then you're not set back and you don't have to stay at work another 3 years, 5 years, because when you lose 20, 30, 40% of your...
Oh, we lost him. His signal, I guess, keeps going out. So we're going to jump into estate planning real quick, and then hopefully we'll be able to pull him back on and we could talk a little bit more about retirement, because I want to know, how soon we should start diversifying. Like, I know we automatically do like our 401ks. And so, working with my mom who, is elderly now, I noticed she had an IRA account that kind of sustained her. So I want to get into that with Mark Tabron. But speaking of my mom, we had to do some, estate planning with regards to her as she got older and, having to deal with her finances. And I became her power of attorney so that I can handle all of her affairs. What should one be thinking about with estate planning and wills? Like what age should we be thinking about that, Attorney McCullum?
As soon as you're 18 years old, you should be thinking about the basic documents of estate planning. The basic documents are a will. That's a document where you indicate how you want to dispose of your property when you pass away. A power of attorney, that is a document where you give another person the power to handle your money and property while you're alive. For example, when you're temporarily disabled or even permanently disabled. So you don't have to have a court proceeding over your property and money. Number 3, you should have a health directive. Sometimes that's called an advance directive. It used to be called a healthcare power of attorney. And in the real old days, because I've been around, over 35 years, in the old days, it used to be called a living will. And that's a document where you let somebody make healthcare decisions for you if you cannot make your own decisions.
Got it.
And of course, some people want trust. A trust is simply like a triangle. Somebody creates the trust, somebody benefits from what's in the trust, and somebody administers the trust. That's called a trustee. And some people want their property money in a trust because they want to benefit someone who may not have the expertise or ability to manage large sums of money or property. So you get another person to be the manager, and that's called a trustee. Those are the basic documents.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Because when you talk about estate planning, you're saying you should start like as soon as you're 18. Like, what should happen should you pass away? Like,
right.
Making sure that, and it's so interesting to me to see celebrities and people who, who have money. Like, it's my understanding that Chadwick Boseman didn't have, a will or, trust, and he and his wife had just got married, like while he was on the deathbed and that kind of situation.
Yeah.
You don't want to leave your loved ones in that situation as to what should happen after you die. We're already traumatized about the fact that you're not here, but then now we have to figure out what to do with your money, figure out what to do with your property, figure out what to do with your intellectual property and all of that. And that's never a good thing. So if you're watching from Facebook, if you're watching from YouTube, if you're watching from our website at praisedc.com, if you have questions for any one of these gentlemen, I want you to go ahead and ask those questions on the thread. We do appreciate you coming. Oh, and share. Tell everybody about this financial freedom heart-to-heart conversation that we're having. So we'll jump back to Mark Tabor. Welcome back, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. We talked before you left. We were talking about retiring and getting ready for retirement. You talked about having different places to diversify your portfolio, to have different places where you'll have money to come from retirement. You talked a little bit. Now we know specifically, I was saying to Attorney McCollum, we usually talk about, the 401ks that comes with our jobs and that kind of thing. What else are you suggesting? I talk for a living. Suggesting. What else are you suggesting that we should have?
Okay. Well, yeah, most people participate or know about their 401k at work, their 403b, government TSP, 457. But I find that a lot of people don't know about some of the other products that are available to help them diversify their portfolio. I'll give you an example. One of our products that are very popular in our webinars is called a fixed index annuity. A fixed index annuity is a newer breed of annuity, and I find a lot of people don't know about it. We do seminars and people say, Mark, I've never heard of this product. How come I didn't know about it? Mm-hmm. And the reason why it's so popular is because it is a product that is designed to help you. It's a retirement product that's designed to help you protect your principal, but it also can guarantee income for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. And that's very important because, a lot of people don't have pension plans these days. Mm-hmm. In fact, a lot of pension plans are falling by the wayside. Mm-hmm. So people might have a 401k and Social Security, and they get ready to retire, and they say, well, how am I going to make this money last until I leave the planet? And, people are living longer. You know that, right?
Right.
They tell us that centennials are one of the fastest growing segments of our population. In fact, some life insurance products go to age 120.
Wow.
So if you think about it, even if a person retired at age 65 and they live to 95, that's 30 years. That's like another lifetime, isn't it?
Yeah.
So a lot of people are looking for products. They're looking for guarantees. We have over 10,000 baby boomers retiring every day. And a lot of those people are looking for guarantees. So that's why a fixed index annuity today is very popular. Because number one, it protects your principal from volatility in the stock market. Number two, it can guarantee your income for life. And you have an opportunity to grow your money based on the index of the stock market, even though your money is not actually in the index. So you have some of the up of the market. You won't get all the up. You'll get some of the up, but you won't get any of the down. So if the market goes down, the worst you could do is a zero. And that's why it's such a popular product, because today a lot of savvy investors are not just concerned about the return on the investment, but they're concerned about the return of their investment. Mm-hmm. So the closer a person gets to retirement, I find that a lot of times they just don't want to lose money right before they retire or right after they retire. And that's why we think it's very important to diversify your portfolio. And that's one good product I think a person should look into if they don't know about it.
Yeah. About that. Would that be an IRA account though, something like that?
Well, yeah, it could fuel your IRA. Give you an example. A lot of people that maybe work for the government, they have a thrift savings plan. They're about to retire. They say, Mark, I would like to roll over some money into one of those fixed index annuities that you talked about. And when they roll the money over, we will put it in what's called an IRA, which stands for Individual Retirement Account. So the tax code will be IRA, but the product will be fixed index annuity. And I often have people say, Mark, what's better? What's the best product? Is an IRA better than mutual funds or better than an annuity? Well, they're not the same thing. IRA is actually the tax code, but you have to have a product within an IRA. So the product within the IRA could be mutual funds. It could actually be a CD. It could be anything. But in this case, we were talking about using a fixed index annuity as the product, tax code IRA. But you could use it from the bank as well. You don't have to move money from a 401k, TSP. You can take money from the bank. Sometimes I'll have clients call me and say, Mark, I have too much money sitting in the bank collecting dust. Could I put that in a fixed index annuity? Absolutely, you could. And when you do that, the plan is called non-qualified. It's not an IRA, it's a non-qualified plan because it's after taxes. And the beauty of that is when you move the money from the bank, you move it into a fixed index annuity. Now you don't have to pay taxes on the money until you take it out because the money grows tax deferred. So if you have money in a savings account or CD or money market, obviously you're not making much money these days. And the little bit of money you make, you have to pay taxes on it. So you put the money in a fixed index annuity. Now you have some we call reasonable rates, and you don't have to pay taxes on the money until you take it out because it's tax deferred.
Got it. What can people who are already retired do to possibly improve their retirement? Okay. If they've already retired.
They're already retired. I think that people should still take the time to talk to a financial professional and make sure they have built themselves a fortress, because there are different things that can diminish your retirement plans, your retirement income. One thing I think that people overlook is long-term care. You know, I get calls from clients. Sometimes they're a lot younger than you would have thought they would have been for things to happen. I have people that have had major illnesses, people that have had major illnesses, gone to the hospital, can't take care of themselves. And a lot of times they look back and they say, wow, I wish I had gotten some type of a long-term care. You know, sometimes people call me after they have a major illness and then they're not eligible for long-term care protection. So I think one thing that people should look at is a strategy. What would I do if you're married? If my spouse got to a point where they needed long-term care, how would that affect us financially? Would we be able to afford to pay a nurse's aide to come in 4 hours a day, 5 days a week? Or could we afford to pay for a semi-private room or a nursing home? And in a lot of cases, the answer is no. Right. And, you know, the statistics are staggering. They tell us that 7 out of 10 people after age 65 need some type of long-term care over their lifetime. And so I think that's one area that people should pay a little bit more attention to is the long-term care. And again, diversifying their portfolio. Found a lot of people retire, still keep the money in their 401k, TSP, 403b. And the question becomes, why would you continue to do that? I mean, after you retire, you know, you might want to protect some of the money by putting it in, some of it in a place where the principal is not subject to the volatility of the market.
Wow. I think I need to talk to you. That's the bottom line. You're right about that. I know one of you guys talked about pensions. My husband was saying that, he's been working for Verizon for a number of years. He's one of the last to be eligible for pensions because those that are being employed right now, they're unable to get pension.
That's right.
If they work full time for Verizon. All right. So what can people in their 30s or 40s who are not close to retirement do that will put them in a better position when it's time to retire?
People in their 30s and 40s should obviously be saving money for retirement. They should be make sure that they're not spending more than they're earning. You want to create a budget for yourself. You want to try to follow the budget. You want to save money. definitely if you're working on the job that offers a 401k or 403b or TSP, you want to participate and at least try to put up to the match, because we look at that as free money. I have some people that come to see me and say, Mark, I'm not really participating in my 401k. And I ask them, well, is the company matching? They say, yes. Well, I think that it would be wise to participate in the 401k. And obviously, we tell people, it's a good idea to save 10%, at least 10% of your funds right off the top, 10%, tithe 10%. And if you could put 10% away, if you think you want to have a project or you want to start a business of things of that nature, if you can learn how to live on 70% of your income, then we think you'd be on the way to doing some very smart things for your financial future. Also, I think it's really important to work on yourself. I mean, there's obviously some technical things you can do, but I think working on the mental aspect of success is very important as well. There's a quote that I love by a gentleman named Jim Rohn. He was a speaker. He passed away a while back. And the quote goes, if you work hard on your job, you'll make a living. But if you work hard on yourself, you can make a fortune. So I think it's equally as important, or maybe more important, to really work hard on yourself. And when I say work on yourself, I mean, listen, read books about finances, read about finances. If you don't have a lot of time to read, today with Audible and all the devices that you can listen to books on tape, there's just so many ways to get the information. But I think it's important to work on yourself. I would tell young people to sit down and think about what it is that you really want. What do you really want? Not what your mother wanted for you or your friends or TV says you should have, but what do you want? And make a list and write down everything that you want. And then narrow the list down to maybe 3 goals that you want. Maybe even take 1 goal and put it in your pocket and read that thing first thing in the morning, midday, and at night. And then affirm those goals. Do the affirmation. I'm a big believer in affirmations. I have a book that I wrote called You Are a Winner, and it's a book about affirmations, because I think that it's really important to affirm and visualize and get the feeling for the things that you want. I believe that helps attract you positive situations to you, attract people that can help you, attract circumstances. So I'm a firm believer that you should write your goals down, do positive affirmations like I am a winner. I am is one of 2 of the most powerful words in the dictionary. I am a winner. I am success. I am successful. I was born to win. I am created in the image of God. I was born to win, born to succeed. I'm successful by nature. So I believe if you practice affirmations and you visualize your goal, and I think it's really important to try to get the feeling, keep the end in mind. What does it feel like if you get to your goal? Let's say your goal was to get to $100,000 a year, or $200,000, or $500,000. What would it feel like if you achieved that goal? Would you feel different? I think you probably would. You probably walk a little different. You might dress
questions from our audience that I want to address real quick. Okay. Lucy Nancy Connor is asking, what is the recommended savings amount for someone in their 30s or 40s?
Is that for me?
Either one of you guys could pick that up. I know that James is talking about, Attorney McCullum is talking about trust and wills, but of course, if any one of you can answer that, that'll be cool. Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's any cookie cutter, situation. I don't think you can say that this one figure is right for everybody. Obviously, there are other things that factor. I mean, what do you earn? What are your expenses like? What are some of the other aspects of your life? However, I think 10% is a good start. There's a power in that number. If you could start with 10%, even if you couldn't save 10%, if you could take a percentage and make it a habit. But I think if you can get to 10%, that's a good starting place.
So if you're in your 50s and you want to invest in your 401k, is 10% still a good percentage amount, or should you up that percentage?
Well, it depends. If you're putting money in a 401k, we often tell people find out what the match is, because if you could go up to the match, that's great, because they're going to match that. Now, outside the match, you might want to look for other areas where you could invest money, or other areas where you could diversify. Mm-hmm. We talked earlier about the FIAs, we call them fixed index annuities. Some of those plans have bonuses. Some people look at bonuses as free money. So after you get the match on a 401k, you might want to look around and see what other products are offering some type of bonus or some type of incentive that you could participate in.
Okay. Attorney McCollum, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I think that was excellent advice that Mr. Tabron gave. Alternative to that, another system that works for some people is oftentimes we have to start small just to develop good habits.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell many people, just try to save $30 a day. That $30 you're wasting on lunch and other frivolities, put that aside. $30 a day at the end of a year, you'll have between $10,000 and $11,000. And that gets you into the habit of saving. Like every day, take that money out of your pocket, out of your wallet, out of your purse, and put it aside. And you look up at the end of the year, you might have more money saved than you ever thought you could save just by the little things every day, building that habit of saving. The other aspect about securing your future and retirement is that we have to learn how to be givers. A will is really a mechanism to give to another generation or to give to other people. And I find that if you look around every day, you find situations where you can give to help somebody else, it breaks the grip of materialism and spending, because you realize that even buying somebody lunch or buying somebody's groceries or helping somebody who has a real need to keep their electricity on, to keep the heat on in the winter, oftentimes it's a relatively modest amount of money that does a great deal of good, but the psychological benefit is that it breaks the grip of materialism, so you take your focus off yourself to help other people, and that in turn helps you to be a better investor and a better saver, because you're not looking around for the next shiny object to buy to clutter up your house or your car or your life.
Right. That's awesome. There was another question I wanted to address. Bree, if you can put that question back up so we can have them. There we go. Kitty Cheney is asking, how often should you move money around to different funds in your TSP or your 401k? Now, TSP is something that government offers.
Yeah, that's called a government thrift savings plan.
Got it.
And like I said, I don't think there's one cookie cutter answer for that. And you have people that have different, I would say, different degrees of risk they can take. Risk tolerance is the word I'm looking for. Some people have a lot of risk tolerance and some people have none. I have some clients that tell me, say, Mark, I am in the G fund and I feel comfortable, I'm safe, I'm not going to make a lot of money. And I have other people tell me, no, I'm diversified throughout. So everybody doesn't have the same risk tolerance. I don't think there's one answer for everybody. I think that's an individual scenario. But I think it makes a lot of sense to pay attention to what you're allocated to. And I'll be honest, I have a lot of people tell me they do not pay attention. I have lots of folks who tell me, Mark, I have people tell me that they don't know what they have in their TSP or they don't know what they have in their 401k. So I think it's very important to pay attention, look at your statements and pay attention. And but I don't think it's one answer for everybody.
Got it. Got it. Hey, so if you're watching on our Facebook page, if you're watching on our YouTube page, or even if you're watching on our website at praisedc.com, welcome to our heart-to-heart discussion on financial freedom. And if you have a question to ask any one of our professionals, Attorney James McCollum, also Mark Tabron of Tabron and Associates, of course, you can ask those questions. That's why we're here. We want to be able to answer the questions. Another question we have for you, Mark, is with all the money the government has had to put out to stabilize the country with COVID-19, is there anything that people can do to protect themselves against future tax liabilities? Because all of this money we're getting, all these, what are we getting? All these checks they giving us, and people are believing we're going to end up having to pay this back through taxes. Like somebody's going to have to pay for, the stimulus that we're all getting. So.
Can't keep printing money, can they?
Right. Is there anything that people can do to protect themselves against tax liabilities?
Yeah, I think it would be prudent and very wise to start thinking about your future tax liability. Even before COVID, we were telling people, hey, you may want to do something about future taxes. And now, if you think about it, I think the first stimulus package, they gave over $3 trillion. I think the second was around 4 billion. Now we're talking about how many times in your lifetime or in the last few years have you used the word trillion?
Right.
So we're using the word trillion a lot. That's a lot of money. So yeah, somebody's going to pay the tax bill. Here's a few things I think you can do. Number one, if you have an IRA, you might want to consider using a Roth IRA. And some 401ks and TSP now does it. Some of the qualified plans, employer plans, will allow you to put some money in a Roth instead of just a traditional. And the Roth side of the plan, we call a qualified plan, a 401k, 403b, 457. Those are all qualified plans, employer dependent plans. So the Roth side of the plan, you pay the taxes now. And the traditional side, you let the money grow tax deferred. Some people say, why would I want to pay taxes now? Well, think about it. Taxes are the lowest they've been in a long time. Some people say 80 years. And believe it or not, there was one time when taxes was actually 90% on the highest earning people in the country. It was. In fact, it was a story of Ronald Reagan. They said when he was an actor, he would only do two movies a year, because once he got to $200,000, everything else was going to go to taxes. Now, I don't know if that's a true story, but the bottom line is, would you want to pay taxes later when they're higher, or would you want to pay taxes now when they're the lowest they've been in 80 years? So a lot of people realize, wow, I want to pay the taxes while they're kind of on sale, so to speak. So this might be a good time to look and see if you're eligible, if it makes sense for you to do what's called a Roth IRA, or Roth some of the money that's in your TSP, or if your employer plan allows it. The other thing you might want to look at, believe it or not, is something called cash value life insurance. We have this nickname for a plan that we use. It's an index universal life insurance policy, and we call it tax-free green line. That's just a nickname. Some people say, Mark, why would you call it tax-free green line? Well, because it has a lot of tax benefits for you. Give you an example. Some people might use different types of policies. We like the IUL because, similar to the fixed index annuity, the IUL is a index universal life insurance policy. So you have an opportunity, if you choose to overfund the policy, which means you're going to put more money than the insurance costs. The extra money is going to go into cash value. Now, that cash value follows the index of the market. Once again, it's not actually in the index. It just follows the index. So at the end of the year, they're going to give you a credit based on what the index does. So you have a really unique opportunity to have some of the up of the market and none of the down. Here's the beauty. Of course, it comes with a death benefit as well. Give an example. Let's say a person had a $200,000 policy. Well, if they pass away, that money, and you talked about giving, this is a good way to give to your family and leave a legacy. Or if you're married, to maybe replace your income or your spouse. A lot of people don't think about that. But if you're married and you pass away, a lot of times one income is gone. That's Social Security. If you're both getting Social Security, you're not going to both get the Social Security check anymore. So you might want to ask yourself, do I really have enough money to even replace my spouse's income? Can I maintain my lifestyle? So you might be doing something that's very positive for your family, but also the money goes to your beneficiary tax-free. Now, let's say that you have a major health problem, chronic illness, where you can't perform 2 out of 6 activities of daily living. This is something people find hard to believe, but it's true. Do you know that a lot of these companies will allow you to take the life insurance money, the death benefit, while you're living, and use it to help you take care of your long-term care needs? Literally, there's some companies will allow you to take up to 25% a year, minus a fee for getting the money in advance, and use it to help you take care of long-term care needs. So that's a big deal, since a lot of people don't have long-term care in the first place. So now you've covered leaving money to your family, a legacy. You've covered some of the long-term scenarios, terminal illness. A lot of companies will let you get up to 100%, 75 to 100% of the death benefit while you're living, if a doctor says you're terminally ill. Last but not least, well, let's say that you you live and you don't have a health problem, and now taxes have gone up, they're sky high. Well, that money that you've been building in the cash value section of the index universal life, well, you can use some of that money as a stream of income, because when you use money from a policy, when you use loans from a policy, the loans aren't taxable. Now, of course, there are rules and regulations. You got to follow rules and regulations. You know, on the short period of time we have to talk, I can't give you all the disclosures. However, if you follow the rules and regulations, you can borrow money from your own policy, and that money is not taxable. Now, some people say, Mark, well, don't I have to pay off the loan? Well, you have the death benefit. When you pass away, the death benefit will pay off the loan and the money that's left over. So you got your money out tax-free. Your beneficiary is going to get the balance tax-free. And that's why we like and call it tax-free green line, because it has some unique tax benefits. And, you know, and of course, the death benefit and the long-term, they call them accelerated benefits. They're not called long-term care benefits, because you're accelerating the death benefit, but you're using it while you're living. You might not believe that some of them even have something called a critical illness rider. It covers things like heart attack, cancer, stroke, organ transplant, kidney failure. And some people say, Mark, are we still talking about life insurance? Right. Yeah, yes, that's life insurance, but it's not your daddy's Oldsmobile. You know, it's different. Things have changed. You know, right. So if you had a policy from 20 years ago or 15 years ago, you might want to look at upgrading and seeing what's going on. Think about cell phones 20 years ago. Anybody remember cell phones 20 years ago? In fact, they were probably car phones, one of these big car phones. You know, think about cars over the last 20 years, how they've changed. You know, it was a time we used to have to roll the windows up. Anybody remember that?
Exactly.
Now cars park themselves. In fact, they have driverless cars. Absolutely. Same thing with policies and products. They have evolved and changed. So if you haven't talked to a financial professional about some of these newer, how these products have evolved and changed, I would encourage you to do so.
What would you say to someone who may have the question about affording a financial advisor, a financial expert? Like, you know, in these COVID streets, people are trying to hold on to their money as much as possible. What would you say to someone who might need to call Mark Tabron, or may have to retain an attorney, but don't have the funds like that? Like, what, you know, what's the realistic, what's the reality of having a financial expert?
Well, obviously, depending on what your current financial situation is, can be a big factor is what you can do. But a lot of people come to see me and say, Mark, you know, I didn't want to come see you because I didn't think I had enough money to talk to you. And sometimes I say, oh, you definitely have enough money to talk to us. You'd be surprised. There are a lot of financial professionals like myself that aren't fee-based. There are some that are fee-based, and there are some that are not fee-based. These products that we've been talking about, the fixed index annuities and IULs, these are insurance products. And we don't charge fees to share this information with people. Literally, when I help one of my clients roll over money into a fixed index annuity because they want a protection or they want a lifetime paycheck, we can do that for a person, and I will get paid, but not by my client. I'll get paid what's called a commission by whatever company that we use. So in that sense, we don't charge fees to have these consultations. Now, I know some people do. I have colleagues that do, and that's okay. Depends on what you're doing. Obviously, if you're having maybe a broker or financial advisor take care of your stocks, bonds, or mutual funds, sometimes there's a fee for that, but you need to discuss that with them or whatever company it is, and make sure you understand what the fee structure is. Now, one of the problems I find, Cheryl, is that sometimes people come to me and they don't know what their fee structure is, and sometimes they get upset when they find out what it is. So I would advise people to try to make sure you understand what the fees are when you're working with a financial professional, financial advisor, or whatever. Make sure you understand, and does the product itself have fees? Because sometimes I use some products that have fees. Now, I have some products that do not, and I have some products that do. Now, I have seen some products where, in my personal opinion, I'm not knocking anybody's product. I've seen some products where the fees are extremely high. And a lot of times people didn't know that. And when they find out what they're actually paying in fees, I've seen people get very upset. So I would suggest that you make sure you understand what the fee structure is in any product that you're going to get, and find out, if you're working for a financial professional, what their fee is as well. But I'm commission based, and my commission is paid from directly to me from the insurance company, not from my clients.
I love that. What advice would you, Attorney McClellan, if someone needs to retain your services? I mean, of course, we have to pay for that, but somebody, we're dealing with these, realistically being able to handle. I mean, how do what does it cost for somebody to get a trust? Now, being in a situation with me having to deal with my mom and being power of attorney for her, I will totally advise you to get an attorney to do that. Like, don't try to do that on your own. Don't try to Google it and try to get it done. Make sure you have an attorney or a professional to get that done for you, because I heard you talk about the power of attorney, but also having the health benefits of it, because the power of attorney papers we had those, the health power of attorney as well. Everything from financial to our healthcare was all wrapped up into this that my attorney put together for me. I would have never been able to do that on my own. I know that. So talk a little bit about that, the importance of making sure we have, great legal counsel to help us with those estate planning situations.
Well, yeah, when you're planning, preferably while you're still alive and you're mentally competent, you want to have your will. A will is a basic fundamental document. Again, it's a giving document where when you pass away, as Mr. Tabor said, when you leave this earth, your stuff's going somewhere. You wanted to go to the people and the institutions you wanted to go to, or do you want it to go to a bunch of strangers or to the government? And do you want to have control over it, or do you want to let a court and the Maryland legislature, the DC City Council, the Virginia legislature have control? Because they have laws in place if you don't do your own will. It's called intestate laws, where they decide where everything goes. And also, very important document. It's not an expensive vehicle, but it's an important document that the value far outweighs the cost. Power of attorney, while you're alive. If you're disabled, who's going to manage your business? Who's going to manage your money? Who's going to pay your bills? You give somebody the power to do that, somebody you trust that will be able to act if you can't act, so your house doesn't go into foreclosure, so you don't lose things by default. Right. And it's, again, a very inexpensive document, and the cost is minimal compared to the value, because if you don't have a power of attorney, you will be in a guardianship proceeding in court, which costs a lot more than that simple document. What used to be called a healthcare power of attorney, now the modern terminology is advanced directive, advanced medical directive, or medical directive. Again, if you are disabled and cannot communicate with your healthcare providers about your wishes for hydration, for nutrition, for pain medication, those type of items. What if you're in a persistent vegetative state or end-stage condition or terminal condition? Unfortunately, these things happen in life. Yeah. Who's going to speak for you and communicate with the healthcare professionals about your desires? That's what that document is there for. Again, the cost is minimal compared to the value those documents bring. And of course, after someone passes away, and this happens, it's just part of life that all of us are going to pass away one day. If you have these documents, what you leave to the people whom you love and you give to your churches and other institutions that you want to give to, it's a much more orderly, less expensive process to go through estate administration, because conflict is bloody, and especially within family members, and conflict is costly. Yeah. And it's much more costly. You put your affairs in order, you have your documents done by a professional, and they're legal in the jurisdiction where you are, then again, it ensures that much more of your estate will go where you want it to go, instead of paying lawyers to fight on behalf of family members who may disagree with each other or have issues with how you wanted to dispose of your property. So all of these documents, again, the value far exceeds the cost of these documents. And of course, we're in a business where catastrophic events happen. There are police shootings, there are wrongful deaths, there are terrible, terrible accidents that happen, unfortunately, every day. And we're in a business where oftentimes people hire us. Most of those cases are contingent fee based, meaning we don't get paid cash to handle them, that we're literally in partnership with our clients. We get a recovery, we get a percentage. And again, the back end of that is oftentimes we have people who are getting 5-figure checks, 6-figure checks, sometimes 7 and 8-figure checks. And we're there to provide counsel. We are called attorneys, but we're also called counselors in law, to help people to preserve what they have, to pass it on, to invest it. We try to assemble teams of other professionals who know what they're doing and will work with our clients according to what their desires are. So the money doesn't come in one hand and go out the other and end up back in the same or worse position than they were before.
Got it. I see a few questions from our social media page. Tina Mitchell says, if 4 siblings have a house that has been left to them by their deceased parents, what should you do to protect their now rental investment, or create et cetera, create a trust, LLC, like what?
Well, many real estate investors or people that hold business real estate properties, of which rental is one part of that classification, oftentimes they want to put that property in what's called a single purpose LLC. A LLC is a limited liability company, because we live in a litigious society. Things happen and people sue, and you don't want to, I'll use this word in quotation marks, you don't want to commingle that asset with other assets, because if you get pulled into a lawsuit or something happens, there's some terrible situation happens, a fire, you don't want that asset to take down other assets you may have in other places. I think Mr. Tay Brown was correct. You want to have safety and security with what you have. And one way to do that for rental property is to put each rental property into a single purpose LLC.
Okay, that's good.
So she wrote, Doris Michelle, she says, my question is, I have pulled money out of my TSP for hardship, and I was told I can't pay it back. Should I add extra funds anyway? And I've also pulled money from my VUL and I'm paying it back slowly.
She said she pulled money from her. I didn't hear the first.
She pulled money from her TSP for hardship. Yeah. Okay. When she first started giving, she said, I have a VUL, a Roth IRA, and I work for the government, and I maxed out my TSP at 5%, which is matched by the government. But then the question is, she pulled money out of the TSP and for hardship and was told you can't pay it back. So, should she pay in extra funds anyway? And she said, I'll also pull money from my VUL and then paying it back slowly.
Well, I mean, if you can't pay it back, I don't see why there's no reason to not continue to contribute if you're still working. I think it's a good idea to contribute while you're working. And because when you leave the government, you cannot contribute to TSP. So I don't see any reason why you would not want to contribute if you can. Because you can't pay the funds back. I'm not sure why they won't allow her to put the money back in, but if she's still working, there's no reason why, if she can contribute, why not contribute?
Got it. All right. So Lisa, how much does it cost to create a living will? And would you provide a link or a suggestion for referrals? So of course, we have on our banner information about Attorney McCullum, but of course we could share that information as well.
Right. A living will, also known today as advanced medical directive or medical directive. The cost of that is fairly minimal. I think you'll find most attorneys will probably charge anywhere from $250 to $1,000, depending on where you go for your legal services.
Okay. All right. So I know you talked about this a little bit, Mark. If taxes go up, what can people do now that will help them keep more of their hard-earned money in the future? Is that one of the programs that you were talking about that you can sign up for that will allow you to do it based on the tax rate now?
Yeah. You could do the Roth IRA. We talked about that. You can actually convert If you already have an IRA, you can do a Roth conversion. Now, some companies will actually allow you to convert part of your IRA. I have folks that say, well, Mark, I have $200,000 an hour or $100,000 an hour. I would love to do a conversion, but I cannot convert all this money in one time. Well, there are actually some companies that will allow you to convert part of it. You can say, if you say you had a $100,000 IRA, maybe you could convert $20,000 a year over the next 5 years. Now, not all companies will allow that, but some companies will. So you could do partial conversions. You can do full conversions. Again, we talked about the index universal life insurance policy. So yeah, there are things you can do now. But remember, you want to be proactive, because once taxes go up, then you can't go back. It's not retroactive. So you want to try to do some of these things now. And earlier I want to mention this too. We had talked about people getting ready for retirement. What should they be doing? But also we want to think about where we are as far as the market is concerned. We've been on a bull run for almost 10 years now. And we know one of the things about the market, that obviously it goes up and it goes down. And so to make sure that you're really preparing for retirement, and you're getting ready to retire, or you just retired, you want to pay attention to where we are and realize that, we, at some point, according to history, will have another recession. Wikipedia says we've had 47 recessions in the history of the United States. That means they're pretty normal. And they average about 5 years apart, but we haven't had one in almost 10 years. So some people would say maybe we're 5, 6, 7 years overdue for a recession. So as far as protecting the money is concerned, we think that might be important to think about where we are and look at your allocations. Pay attention to how you're currently allocated, and do you have enough money currently in principle, enough of your principal protected, so when the next one comes, you won't be financially devastated. But to answer that question, Roth IRA, you might want to do it now and do some conversions, partial conversions, look at cash value life insurance as well.
Got it. So let's talk about Attorney McCollum. I know we talked about estate planning. We talked about the different financial terms like power of attorney, trust, will. What other specialties do you have that you specialize in at your law firm?
Well, about half our firm, we're involved in major litigation. Unfortunately, we live in a world where people sometimes get devastated, particularly with catastrophic type events. Mm-hmm. And our legal system is set up so we cannot replace a lost limb or a lost life, for example. But the system does allow people to, usually family members of the person himself or herself, to get compensation. So people hire us for that. And when we're successful, we're able to deposit large sums of money into the hands of family members of the person himself or herself. The remainder of our firm is what I would say stuff that happens outside of court. As we talked about, wills, trusts, powers of attorney, medical directors. We're always working on contracts. We represent quite a large number of business entities, people who are in business. And we also do a lot of work with churches and other not-for-profit organizations. So we have a fairly substantial advisory practice, and helping and working with our clients as part of the team to help them make wise decisions about what to do with the money that they do have in terms of fulfilling the missions of organizations or achieving individual goals.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So if you're just tuning in, this is our heart-to-heart financial freedom conversation. And of course, we have Mark Tabron from Tabron and Associates and attorney James McCollum. If you have a question, you can pose it at this time and we can make sure they can answer your questions for you. You would probably have to pay a big consultation fee for all the information that we're getting tonight. But I thank God for this opportunity and this wealth of information. We definitely need this going into this new administration, going into this new year, as we starting to see things shift and fold. If you have a question, we want you to share it, or on your page, share this conversation on your page as well, so as many people as possible can get the information that we're sharing. So, Mark, is there anything else that you want to share with regards to your company? I know you talked about a book or maybe an opportunity to give away some of your pamphlets to some of those that are actually listening to us or following us right now.
Yeah, we have a new booklet that just came out. It's called Guaranteed Income for Life. And it talks about 7 ways that an annuity, 7 ways of fixed index annuity can benefit your retirement. So that is a complimentary book. Just go to our website, mark@protectandgrowmoney.com, and you can send an email, request a book, mark@protectandgrowmoney.com. Feel free to call our office, 301-322-1607. You can get the book that way. Also, if you're, a lot of people know what to do, but don't do it. So if you need some inspiration, you might want to get my book, You Are a Winner. That is a motivational, inspirational book that helps you get to the mindset where you do the things that will help you become financially successful. I put 7 steps in that book that have helped our company become successful. And we work with some of the largest insurance companies in the country, and they tell us that we're in the top 1% of people that do what we do. So if you want to find out more about how you can get inspired, the book is called You Are a Winner, and just go to protectandgrowmoney.company.site, and you can find the book there. So I'd encourage people, again, like I said, work on yourself. If you want to be financially successful, it's not just what you do, but what you think. A lot of people that I've mentored with and I work with, some of the most successful people I know, they really spend a lot of time working on their selves, on their attitude and their mentality. So I would encourage, especially, everyone, young folks as well, to spend more time reading, listening to positive, motivational, inspirational, and educational information. And like I said, the more you work on yourself, the easier it is to become successful.
Got it. We do have another question coming from Marguerite Stubbs. She says, currently I'm contributing about 17% of my income to TSP. Should I reduce it and look at other options?
Well, I don't know enough about her situation to make that recommendation. We don't make recommendations based on a little bit of information. When someone comes to see us, we do what's called a fact finder. Yeah. And when we do a fact finder, we really find out a lot more about what a person's current situation is. So there are a lot of information that goes into our recommendations. I really couldn't tell her what to do just based on that information.
Right. I think because we're talking about 10% going to 401k, but she's contributing 17%. But I see what you're saying. You want the full picture before you can give her any type of, she says she understands. That's awesome. All right, so we're going to wrap up in just a few moments. I want to give you both an opportunity to close out with final words or any words of inspiration that you want to share with those that are listening. If we don't have any more questions coming from our audience, we've got about 8 minutes before it's time for us to wrap up. So we're going to give you both opportunity to kind of close out. We'll start with Attorney McCullum.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to mention, Ms. Jackson, that I think is important that we haven't talked about is that we live in a world where, unfortunately, a lot of people have disabilities. Sometimes they're mental disabilities and physical disabilities. Sometimes it's circumstances, drug, alcohol addiction. And sometimes we have people who want to really help those people. And I think it's important, if you want to do that, if you have children or grandchildren or people in your family who may have one form of disability or another, but you really want to help them and pass on a financial legacy, those are ideal circumstances for trust, because you're able to set aside money and property to help people, but also you have somebody else in place called a trustee, another person who can administer that property and handle that money and make sure that it's not wasted or the person with a disability may be taken advantage of. So I think that's really, really an important issue. The laws are changing right now. Literally, there's a federal law that was passed a few years ago that allows people who are even receiving government benefits because of disabilities to have money set aside without penalty and without disqualifying them from receiving benefits from the government. So that's a real area of concern. The other aspect I'll mention is that if you have people in your family with disabilities, it's very important to make sure you have a healthcare document in place for them, because obviously they may have a situation where they could not be able to communicate at any time. And it's also important to have a power of attorney to be able to pay their bills and to handle what money they may have if all of a sudden the disability worsens. Crucial documents, because with the HIPAA laws in place right now, you go to a hospital, you won't even have access to an adult's medical records now. But when you have those documents, and I can't go into anything confidential, but I will tell you, I've seen lives saved because parents and grandparents had those documents in place. Something happened, they went to the hospital, and they were able to communicate with the healthcare providers, for example, about medication a person may be on, so they're not treated in a way of giving some other medication that would be contraindicated. Also, I just extend the invitation if anybody wants to call me. I'm at 301-537-0661. That's my cell number. Wow. You can get directly to me without going through the answering service or another staff person, and I'll be happy to talk to you to try to assess your situation and see if we can help. And if we can't help you and you have a problem that needs help, you know, we have a pretty good network of both other attorneys and other professionals where we feel confident we can refer people and make recommendations so you get the help that you need. Thank you.
That's so awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much. And I know what you're saying is true. You know, my mother has dementia. And so when we first began to see it 5 years ago, when she was getting confused, as she is an accountant by trade. So when we saw she started getting confused, you know, right then when she said, you know what, I might need you to help me with my bills, that's when we really became proactive about making sure we had power of attorney. So that as things progress, right now she's had a major brain bleed, so she can't speak on her own behalf. We already have that paperwork in place. And now when I say, like you said, that document is, you know, for the money, it's worthless. You know what I mean? It's worth every penny of you investing in making sure you have power of attorney, that you have the legal documents that you need, because then we were able to make decisions on her behalf, make sure her bills were being paid, made sure that, you know, that nothing has missed a beat, you know. And even with regards to the home that we own, that she made sure we were all in place, and our name, my brother and I, her name was on the property. We were just very proactive when we first found out about it. And you could be devastated, like you said, over those kinds of illnesses that you get paralyzed based on what you think you need to do to make sure that legal things are in place. But I would attest to what you're saying, making sure that you have those legal documents in place. It will help you in the long run.
The other thing I want to mention is that in your situation, my mother had dementia also. She had sudden onset dementia, meaning on Monday I could pray with her and talk with her. On Tuesday, she literally couldn't communicate. And I tell people that exists. I did not even know that existed till it happened in my own family. But I also tell people a lot of what you can do in planning. You can add people's names to your bank accounts, you know, that you trust. You can have payable on death accounts, transfer on death accounts. The District of Columbia allows transfer on death deeds, meaning you could add somebody's name to your deed on your real estate. And if the person passes away, it doesn't have to go through probate, for example. So there are a lot of simple things we can do. And I know Mr. Tabor was talking about life insurance, for example. I always tell people, check your bank accounts to make sure how things are titled. I tell people, check your beneficiary statements to make sure your beneficiary statements are up to date, you know, because I've seen many situations where people pass away and they didn't change their beneficiary forms with the government, and the money goes to like an ex-spouse, for example, and all types of unfortunate situations when people get older. Thank you.
Okay.
So, Mark, I know you have a radio show on WOL and Ace. Tell us about that before you close out, and we'll give you opportunity to close out with final words as well.
Okay. Well, the radio show on 104.1, which I'm happy to be part of the family, comes on Saturday mornings at 6:30. And then we have, it plays again on WOL Saturday at 12 o'clock. And then it's on WOL on Mondays at 12:30.
Wow.
So we're really excited about that.
Awesome.
Okay.
We'll have you close out with closing remarks.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll officially close us out. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I would just say that it was a pleasure being on the call. Thank you for inviting me here. And I would say once again, for younger folks, this is a good time to really think about saving money. You know, we're not, a lot of things are closed now. We found out we don't need to do as much as we thought we had to. You know, we're not spending as much money. So this is a good time to save money. And if you don't have credit card debt, try not to run up credit card debt. If you have credit card debt, try to get rid of that credit card debt. Obviously, saving money makes a lot of sense. And I talked earlier about working on yourself. I think if you want to be financially successful, a lot of people tell me they want to start a business or they want to do a lot of things. They want to do amazing things in life. I think it's important to work on yourself. So we talked about the importance of setting goals and doing affirmations and visualizations and, you know, starting with the end in mind. But don't forget, here's one important thing. You got to take action. If you want satisfaction, you got to take action. So a lot of times people stop at the take action part. They might know a lot of things to do and don't do it. So I would encourage people to do something, you know, pick up the phone and call Attorney McCullen, or pick up the phone and call myself or somebody, but do something, take some action. And I would encourage you to continuously to work on yourself, improve yourself. If you want to be financially successful, I think you have to spend some time really working on yourself.
Awesome. So good. We into Praise One and WOL Mark Tabron's radio show. And thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. We have to say rest in peace to Cicely Tyson. While we've been on, we got breaking news that Cicely Tyson passed away at 96 years old. And so, of course, stay close to Praise 104.1. We'll continue to give you updates on that, especially tomorrow during the midday show. Make sure you lock us in. For the midday show. We'll keep you abreast of all of that. Again, thank you so much to Attorney McCullum and to Mark Tabron for being a part of this heart-to-heart financial freedom conversation. This is a wealth of information. If you had to put a dollar amount on the information that you guys shared tonight, it will break the bank. But we thank God for the opportunity for you sharing your heart and being transparent and providing this platform for our viewers and for our listeners here at Praise and Spirit 1340. Thank you guys so very much. Thank you to all of you guys who hung out with us tonight. Thank you for your questions. Be sure to listen out for our next heart-to-heart discussion. And good night to everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.